Hey, this is Rob Swanson with the Real Estate Mogul Show. Let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Rob Swanson back here with the first Real Estate Mogul Show of 2024. Welcome. We are going to have a good time here in the studio today, and we got a partial crew again. I don't know who keeps approving all these vacations of these guys just fluffing off. And
Even if Henry's here, though, physically, he's not here mentally.
Yeah, well,
what's the difference?
He's thinking about that rebel.
Yeah, there is a lot of truth. There is a lot of truth to that. That's true. And he's not here to defend himself, so let's just
pour it on. That's right.
Yeah. Let's just go.
There's nothing he can do about it.
No.
Oh, my goodness.
Amazing.
Now, today's show, guys, we are going to be diving in and talking about how do you start the new year with a bang. We want you to have hopefully had a great holiday season, got a little bit of rest and relax. Now, I know that some of you are of that mindset that you push up to the end of the year because taking your foot off the brakes is, a sign of weakness, or it's going to set you back. Here's my belief. I believe everybody needs to rest and recover. And I will tell you, if you will figure out in your business how to take your foot off the brake for a period, if you're still in that hustle and building mode, you got to figure out how to take your foot off the brake. You got to figure out how to just refresh and kind of build yourself back up. When you come back, you have more clarity, you have more energy, you have more creativity, you have more performance that's actually going to help you get the results you want. So I'm a huge believer
Rob,
in taking that break.
To that point, when you're in it, it seems like all you can see are the fires, the hurdles.
Right.
And then, we've all had this experience. You're going through something in life, and somebody on the outside goes, "Oh, well, why don't you just do that?" And it's because, and you're like, "Oh, that's brilliant." Well, it's because you're not in the middle of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can intentionally do that. To your point,
Yep.
is to get out of your, day-to-day circumstance, and it's valuable because you can see things that you can't see when you're standing in the middle of the flame. So
yeah, that's exactly right. And, I didn't always know that, right? I didn't always know it or believe it. Early on, 20 years ago, when I was building the business, and, the business has gone through seasons of building, ebbing and flowing and modifying and tearing down and building back up. And, business is a combat sport, right? And sometimes it goes really nice and smooth, and sometimes you feel battle bruised. And it was through that process over time. We used to go on vacation, and I wasn't able to unplug for the first 3 days of vacation. And so I didn't recognize that early on. My wife didn't recognize that early on. And we would go on vacation, and all of a sudden, day 4 would roll up, and all of a sudden I was a different person. And, I was far enough away from the day-to-day grind and hustle that I was able to kind of unplug and mellow a little bit. And so once I realized that, I started to say, hey, we're not going to take a vacation unless it's a week or a 10-day vacation. Like we got to go, because the first 3 days I'm still plugged to the business, and I've got to disconnect those things and then get on a vacation. So we started taking longer vacations. And once we started to do that, then I realized, wow, when I come back, the mental clarity that I have, and just the awareness and the way that I can see problems in the business was significantly improved from where I was before that. And so that's why I always tell people, right? And even the team here, like, I encourage people, go get away, unplug, and refresh your brain, and then come back with a new mental acuteness that you didn't have before. It's a big deal.
Let me tell you an interesting story. We're leaving church on Sunday, and the guy that runs the small group that we go to, he's pulling up, and he's a regional C-suite level, or he's a C-suite level guy for a regional bank, and they were going through some bumps, right? And so I said, "Hey man, how's it going?" And he looked beat up, and he looked beat up. Regulation change meant there was a couple line items of revenue that were just completely disappearing due to a government regulation change, and so they were going through layoffs and restructuring.
Yep.
Right before Christmas. Welcome to this role. Okay, he looks beat.
Welcome to this economy.
Yeah. Well, right. Welcome to it, and he's in the middle of it. He's not alone, but
Just known as Bidenomics.
Jeez. Most likely.
Yeah.
So
I was thinking.
Just to be clear, yep. Anyway, his boss was out, and I said, "So did they move you into that role?" And he goes, "Yep, got moved into that role." And I said, "Are you excited about it?" And he goes, "This is a 3 to 4 year. This will burn, right?" He said, "This is a 3 to 4 year cycle because that's all that anybody can handle." So to your point, there is no recovery in this particular position, and 3 or 4 years later, there's always somebody new in the seat because they're just burnt. But that's the model. And so I just thought, hey, you were telling a story about getting away, right? And as an entrepreneur, you have that ability.
Yeah.
You're running your real estate business, you have that ability. He's been put into a tough spot, and he knows going in that this is probably a 3 or 4 year, and then I'm done. So he said my whole week was wrapping up Zoom calls at 10:30 at night and back on them at 6 a.m. the next morning. So to that point, you either intentionally build in some recovery or you burn yourself out.
Right.
Those are the only two options.
Well, and entrepreneurs are famous for burning themselves out. I mean,
yes.
Not only is it just a little bit of how we're wired, right? We're type A, high D, driving, challenging, results oriented, like lacking of empathy. Like, we want results. We want to get a task done to produce something, right? That's what a typical entrepreneur approach is. And the challenge with that is there's a number of challenges with that. And as you age, or as you let experience, or as you let a mentor, somebody kind of speak into you, you don't have to wait until you're 50 to learn these things. You can learn these things when you're 22, but you have to be intentional about learning them, and you have to be intentional about saying, okay, somebody that took a long time through experience to learn these, what lessons do I have to apply at 22 to sort of change this? And one of the first things is hustle is a season. It's not the destination. You did not get into the business of being an entrepreneur or into the business of building a business or real estate investing. You didn't get into this business to hustle for the rest of your life. You got into it for the financial freedom and the freedoms that real estate investing and business can offer. And what happens is people get in and they start a business, and if it's their first business or their second, even their third sometimes, they don't have the experience to recognize where all of the shortcuts are or where the leverageable opportunities are. And there's a great book, Who Not How, out there. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs would be well served to read that book. And yet some of you are going to sit and say, I've read that book and I heard that, but I didn't have the money to hire who. So I had to figure out the how, and I had to hustle and do it. And that's my point. Hustle is a season. It's not a destination. So if you're hustling for the end result, you oftentimes hustle longer than you need to. If you hustle to replace the how with the who, the hustle period is shortened, and you get someone else in there that can take on that thing, and the results can be achieved much quicker, easier, with less stress. And so as we enter into this new year, what I want you to be thinking about is, are you setting yourself up to hustle, or are you setting yourself up for achieving results in a systematic, organized, efficient manner? And that just takes thinking, and that takes being refreshed, and that takes strategy, and then it takes execution. And so, we talk to dozens of real estate investors, entrepreneurs, business owners every single day here at FreedomSoft, and we see the gamut. We see the people that have sort of figured the game out, and we see the people that are trying to get into the game. And oftentimes the bridge between the people that are getting into the game and the people that have figured it out is a lot shorter than what most people believe. There are a few key things that the guy or gal just getting in can do to shorten that bridge and get to the place where hustle is no longer the season. It's a lot shorter than most people think. And so that's where I want us to start this conversation. I want people to be thinking about that as they launch into this next year.
Rob, I was just going to say something quick because we're talking about systems here and hustle's a season. I was going to say, talking to investors and, FreedomSoft users, I've talked to hundreds of people that were quick to hustle up some activity, some daily activity. I've talked to very few who have been quick to hustle up a system.
Yeah.
And I find that really interesting.
Yep.
No kidding. Like, we feel like we just have to go do more of the thing instead of getting up to 5,000 or 10,000 feet above the business and saying, wait a minute, what if I put the same effort into finding a pre-built or putting together or creating a system that could lessen the hustle for a long, long time, because now we're relying on a system. And I just, for some reason, that mindset doesn't naturally occur.
Yeah. Well, I just think it's an observation. Yeah, and I think it's a good one, because the last show of last year, we talked about real estate and technology, and we talked about how to use technology to leverage and help you add value in your business. And the reason we talked about that as the last show of last year was because we wanted people to start thinking about and taking stock. Is the technology they're using in their business last year the same technology that they need to be using this next year to get them where they want to go, right? The technology that got you where you are, is it the same technology that is going to get you to where you want to go? And it might be the same technology. You just might have to modify and customize some of its usage in order to grow and scale and get there. And so coming now into this conversation, it's kind of the same. It's kind of the same thing, right? Where we're asking, why is it that real estate investors, entrepreneurs don't hustle? They hustle up activity. They don't hustle up a system, right? And if you think about what technology is the tool that does a lot of the hustling activities, right? You can sit there and you can type and send a bunch of emails. You can sit there and you can type and send a bunch of text messages. You can sit there and stare at notepads and try to organize your leads. And you can, you can go out and you can manage a direct mail house and manage all of your send dates, and you can manage your list building, and you can do all of these things. And these are all activities that feel like you're working towards an outcome, but they're hustle activities. And technology can simplify all of those activities and do most of the heavy lifting for you that gets you quicker out of the hustle mode. And we see that's part of the bridge that people have to figure out. When they're getting started, they need to know what activities are important and what activities should I avoid. And then once they're experienced and on the path, what activities do I need to find technology to leverage and do for me? And how do I build automation and systems into that entire process? So, Mike, these are the things that we see real estate investors going into a new year asking all the time. What is some of the feedback that you get from investors, or where do you think people land on this hustle is a season mentality?
First off, people need to hear hustle as a season.
Yeah.
Because there are new investors that are in danger of making hustle a lifetime. Or here's the reality: you won't make it a lifetime because it'll burn you out. Right.
Yep.
So one of the dangers, Rob, you were talking about entrepreneurs in this drive. It can be a beautiful thing, but right next to every advantage based on how you're wired is a disadvantage. And so, how many entrepreneurs or investors started, let's just talk real estate, and I love real estate and I love what it can provide, and then they didn't think systems. They started taking action, and then those actions ramped up, and they still didn't think about systems. And let me back up. Everybody has a system. You either have a good one or a poor one.
That's right.
If you doing everything in your business always is the system, you do have a system. You just don't have a very good one. So let's just define this, or make sure everybody's on the same page. So, and then you at some point it becomes your everything. And then you start to wake up and go, wait a minute, I got into real estate to spend more time with my family or to do this or that, and you're not doing any of that, and you feel like you just wake up and put out fires and go to bed, and then you're done, and then you hate everything that you just started.
Yeah.
And that's the path if you don't back up and say, wait a minute, what are the systems that I need in place? Do I need to hustle up a system? Do I need I have a system. Do I need an improved system? Do I need a better one? So, back to the topic, I just want to be clear that everybody has a system. So it's not whether or not you have one. It's whether or not it's good. Is your system sustainable long term? Is your system going to just burn you out? Or does the system support, the goals and dreams that you have that real estate can help you accomplish? That's really the question. And, this is a timely question any month throughout the year, but especially to kick off a new year.
Yeah, well, and I think that here's my belief too. The system isn't just technology or how you do something. It's not just a standard operating procedure. It's not a process step by step. It also, part of the system is your belief system, right? What do you believe? And what you believe and what you are willing to draw your line in the sand or stick your flag on the top of the hill for is what you'll get up and work towards. And if you desire, if your statement of beliefs and your system of beliefs is in line with or is guiding the activity and the actions you're taking, you're more likely to hit the result than not. And I bring this up because we have a statement of beliefs around here that we hang our hat on, and it's something that we use to guide how we approach real estate, business, life, finances, all of those things. And it's kind of a why hanger and a way we believe, right? It informs the way that we show up and think about some of these things. And so to start this next year off, if we understand that hustle is a season, it's not the destination. And if we understand that how we think and what we believe is directly tied to the likelihood of us achieving the results we want, let's start with a statement of beliefs. And we invite all of you to join us in making this statement of beliefs part of your own. And so the number one thing in our statement of beliefs, and we have this written down, it's a part of our Real Estate Mogul Academy. So anybody that is an Academy member knows this statement of beliefs. It's front and center. It's something that we talk about. It is a guiding piece to the way we approach the business. The number one thing is we believe traditional investment advice is broken and that it enslaves most people. Now, if you believe that, you're not going to get distracted by the next YouTube channel that pops up as you're going through something on your laptop and learning real estate investing. And too many people get distracted and they chase down rabbit trails and they're trying to do 6 or 8 or a dozen different things. We believe traditional investment advice is broken and it enslaves most people. So number one, don't be a slave to broken advice. Lean in on advice from people who have actually been there, done that, and have a proven path. Number two, we believe that to break the chains of financial bondage, you have to be willing to buck the status quo and do what most people won't. Okay, most entrepreneurs are pretty happy to do that. We're happy to buck the status quo. We're happy to do what people tell us we can't do. In fact, if people tell us we can't do it, we're probably more inclined to try. And so that's pretty easy. But if you'll do that, and if you'll lean in and follow that process, you can break those chains and you can unlock opportunity that you financially haven't seen before. Number three, we believe that investing in real estate is not only a proven path to achieving financial freedom, but that it is achievable by anyone willing to learn and take consistent action towards that goal. We talk about it all the time. You've got to put in a certain amount of effort at a sufficient level of skill. So effort and skill are the two ingredients. And so not only is real estate investing a proven path to financial freedom, but if you put in effort and you gain a sufficient level of skill in putting in that effort, you can actually achieve the goal. Number four, we believe that the bridge from financial bondage to financial freedom starts with knowledge and is crossed as a result of unwavering desire and consistent action. You got to learn, right? People ask me all the time, hey, Rob, what are you investing in? The number one thing that I tell people I'm investing in is knowledge. So I invest in myself and I invest in knowledge. And it's the number one thing that you can invest in that nobody can take away from you. Do not be stingy in investing in knowledge. Knowledge will pay back an ROI that is significantly greater than almost anything else you can ever have. Because without the knowledge and without the knowledge to take a certain action or a knowledge to go into a certain industry or build a certain business or invest in a certain asset, without that knowledge, none of the other thing would happen. So knowledge is the leader and the precursor to the financial reward of taking the action. Number five, we believe a fear of the unknown and the perceived high risk of investing in real estate disappears when you gain knowledge. There's that word again. And connect with a community of like-minded, action-taking mentors, coaches, teachers, and peers. And so if you make the decision to pursue knowledge, the fear of the unknown and the fear of risk melts away. And especially if you pursue knowledge amongst a community of people that have that knowledge and are learning that knowledge with you, it melts away. Number six, we believe the effort is worth the reward. I think that goes without saying, right? You can look around and you can see people that have put in the effort, have developed a sufficient level of skill, have the knowledge, and are reaping the benefits of the reward. You just have to decide if the effort fits you. And if it doesn't, that's okay. That's your choice. We believe the effort is worth the reward. And we believe that that reward will pay dividends. If you choose not to put in the effort, not do it, not go out and take it, that's your choice. And number seven, finally, in our statement of beliefs, we believe success is yours, so go get it. It's right there for the taking. So pull up the bootstraps and go get it. Just go do the thing. And what we want to do on this show is talk to you about what things should you be doing. What tools, what community, what things, what actions, what approach should you be doing, and what things should you maybe avoid? Where are the shortcuts? That's the key to this whole thing. Where are the shortcuts? And people will always tell you that there are no shortcuts. Mike, what do we think about that? Shortcuts? No shortcuts?
Shortcuts. Yeah. I mean, the reason you get involved with a group of people that know what they're doing is shortcuts. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Here's what I'm trying to do. I know you've already done it. What should I do next? That's a shortcut.
100%.
That's an intelligent shortcut.
Yep. Because from here to my house, if you don't know how to get from the office to my house, you could take the long way there. You still get there. You could also take the most efficient way. Now, you could go from my office to my house at 5:30 in the afternoon, and you could take the most efficient perceived way, but everybody else perceives the same thing, and so traffic is a nightmare. So the shortcut is recognizing that at this time of day, between this location and this location, there's a lot of interference. And so go over here and then back, and you get there without the interference. So sometimes what people perceive as the shortest path from A to B actually has a lot of interference in its way. And they can't figure out this is clearly the shortest path, but it's not the shortcut. And there's a difference between the short path and the shortcut. And you don't often know that until you have experience, and you don't often know that until you have some wisdom and knowledge around this, right? I always say that knowledge plus experience equals wisdom. You don't gain wisdom without knowledge. You don't gain wisdom without experience. You can do dumb things, that's experience, and that probably teaches you something, so you gain knowledge. You can also gain knowledge and never take any action, so you lack the experience. The two of them combined, though, knowledge plus experience equals wisdom. Wisdom is the thing that you're looking for. And so as you launch into this next year, I want you to be asking yourself, where am I gaining my wisdom? Who or what or how am I getting my wisdom from? Where's it coming from? And hopefully it's coming from somebody that has knowledge, has experience, and therefore has wisdom. Hopefully your knowledge is coming from someone that has wisdom. And so, I always talk about this, the difference between a mentor, a coach, a teacher, and then a peer. And you can learn from all of them. And there's another one that I put in there too sometimes, and that's a facilitator. So you've got a mentor, a coach, a teacher, a facilitator, and a peer, someone that's in the community with you. So a mentor is typically somebody that has gone ahead, has done what you want to do, and has the ability to see blind spots that you may not see yourself because you don't have the experience to see them. A mentor knows the hurdle before you round the corner and can see the hurdle there. The mentor knows the blind spot around the corner before you even get to the edge of the corner. That's what a mentor is. A mentor has wisdom, and a mentor can help you recognize those hurdles, roadblocks, and the blind spots before you get there because they've been there, done that, and can see it even if you can't. Now, that's different than a coach. And a lot of times mentorship and coaching gets misconstrued or they get lumped together. But a coach is someone who understands how to guide you to a level of performance that you probably were not going to achieve on your own. A coach does not necessarily have to be someone that has been there, done that at the highest level, but a coach is someone that has been trained to execute and to teach you how to execute for a specific result. And a good coach has experience coaching, modifying the performance of their student or their athlete or their whoever they're coaching in whatever area, business, real estate, athletics, you name it. A coach can look at that student and say, you need to improve your phone skills. You need to improve your ability to talk to a seller. You need to be more consistent in your marketing. You need to stop marketing to this list and use this list, even though we've told you that 8 times. A coach is going to be there and is going to steer you down the straight and narrow and elevate your performance at every step. Hey friends, Rob Swanson here. Let me jump in and talk to you really quick about the Real Estate Mogul Academy. You might be sitting back listening to this and saying, how do I get in proximity with these guys? How do I have these kind of conversations, water cooler, hallway conversations every single day to help me go where I want to go in my real estate investing business? Whether you're just getting started or you're already a seasoned pro trying to elevate and go to that next step, the Real Estate Mogul Academy might be for you. What we'd like to do is offer you a free strategy session where someone from my team will jump on the phone. We'll talk about where you are, where you want to go, and how the Real Estate Mogul Academy might be the right fit for you. If you're saying to yourself, that sounds great, let's do it, go to mogulmembers.com, fill out your name and your contact information, and let's jump on the phone and let's chat. Let's see if we can help you go where you want to go this year. So that's the difference between a mentor and a coach. A mentor is not there to push you daily. A mentor there is to provide you the conversation and the wisdom for you to go and recognize what's about to come. A coach is there to help you improve your performance. Now let's take that to a teacher. A teacher is there and is doing it oftentimes in a one-to-many group type of an environment where a teacher is creating a curriculum or a system, is teaching that system, and you are learning that system, and you're going to go out on your own and execute it. A teacher has great skill in taking things that are complicated and making them simple and breaking it down to its components and teaching you the what, the how, and the why of a process, oftentimes in order to gain knowledge and produce a certain result. And so a teacher is, once again, different than a coach, different than a mentor, down to then what I would call a facilitator. So a facilitator is somebody who typically runs a mastermind, right? Or facilitates group type activity. A facilitator doesn't need to be a mentor, doesn't need to be a coach, doesn't need to be a teacher. A facilitator is a connector. They bring people together and they use the collective wisdom of the group to create the value for the community. That's what a facilitator, that's what a mastermind organizer, what their role is. And then all the way to a peer. When you start to get involved in a community of people moving all towards the same direction, your peers are the people that are inside of that community moving with you. Some of them are ahead of you, some of them are behind you, some of them are at the same level as you. And so within your group of peers, you can be a mentor to some. You can be a coach to others. Your peer group can mentor you and can coach you. It doesn't mean that they've achieved the end result, but if they're ahead or behind, you can take the role of mentor, coach, teacher to help, or student to learn. And so as you're heading into this next year, ask yourself, what communities are you getting involved in and plugging in on in order to go to that next level? And are you going to play all out? And we see this all the time, Mike, inside of the communities that we run. We see people, we see peers, and we see some people running full sprint, and we see other people just kind of walking at a decent pace. And then we see other people just sitting on the lounge chair on the side of the track, kind of chilling in the sun, right? And so none of that decision is bad, because the person sitting on the lounge chair might be just absorbing content and knowledge and learning. And if their pace and if their path and if their comfort is that today, that's an okay place. Just recognize what it is and where it is. And sometimes you see the person sprinting full speed, and the mentor's job or the coach's job is to say, hey, slow down. You're hustling at such a high pace, you're going to burn yourself out, and there's no need to hustle, because if you just did this slightly different, it will eliminate 80% of the work you're doing, and you'll get the result faster. I mean, we see that stuff all the time in the groups and talking to the people. What do you think is the most common? I don't know. The most common reason, like why do people either lounge on the chair or sprint, and why does it feel like most people end up in one of the opposite extremes?
Wow, that's a great question. Thinking on for a minute, I think when you said why do people lounge, the first word that popped into my head is fear. So right or wrong, I'm just going to say it.
Mm-hmm.
If and this isn't just real estate specific, but people pursuing something new, and anytime there's an unknown component, a really common human reaction is to kind of pump the brakes and say, wait a minute. Specifically in the real estate world, things like pulling comps, playing around with data, no fear involved. And it's kind of fun, to be honest.
Right.
But what happens is I've talked to so many who were on the sidelines, and they've convinced themselves that they're just looking for the right opportunity. They haven't found the right market yet. And what's behind all that is, instead of saying, I'm afraid to take proper action, it comes out in a different way. And it comes out oftentimes in that I haven't found the right fill in the blank yet.
Right.
So I just want to throw fear on the table, because I know it's prevalent. Some people admit it. Most probably don't. But after talking to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of, students, investors, and whatever, we can see it, because we're on the coach side of things, which we totally get. One of the things I love about real estate is everybody starts at 0 transactions, which I think is really cool.
Yep.
It doesn't matter where you were born. If you have a rich uncle, none of that matters. Guess what? We all started at 0 transactions. And so regardless of your background, it allows anybody that's closed a transaction to relate.
Yep.
We have something in common. We got past, because everybody had the initial hesitation.
Sure.
Could have been at different levels. That's fine.
Yeah.
But everybody had it. That is a fact, right? Because you're about to go do something that you've never done before.
And Mike, I'm going to jump in, because this is not even just for the new person. This is talking to the experienced pro. There are things that experienced pro or that intermediately experienced investor has to do, that it's not about getting started or not getting started because of the fear of getting started. It's, okay, the experienced pro that's never put a real estate fund together and has never gone out and raised capital in that type of environment and raised millions of dollars at a time. There's an experienced operator can have a fear and a disbelief over whether that will be possible or whether that will produce the results they want. And so the fear is perfectly. I mean, I'm glad you brought it up, because whether you're just starting or you're an experienced pro, the next step in your evolution, there's always an element of the unknown.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And the element of the unknown typically drives and creates some fear associated with it. I think an interesting story to that, and I've told this story before, but when I first got my private pilot's license, and I was released, I was free to do what I wanted to do. And the little flight school that I was had trained at, we had our half a dozen little airports that we always flew to, and they were, comfortable. I knew the radios, I knew the pattern entries, I knew the runways, I knew what it looked like. And the first time and when I was a student pilot years ago, I was endorsed to go fly to those airports. And that's all I could do. Like, I couldn't go wherever I wanted to, whenever I wanted to. I had to have my flight instructor endorse me to do it. And then all of a sudden, you pass your exams, you pass your written, you pass your oral, and you pass the flight exam, and all of a sudden you're free. You don't have to ask anybody permission to do anything.
Anywhere you want.
Anywhere you want. And so when I was brand new, I could go out and I could rent the plane. Didn't have my own plane at the time. Could rent the plane, could jump in it, and I could fly wherever I wanted to. The first time I did that is I look back at it now, and it's like, wow, how is it possible that I was fearful of that flight? Like, how is it possible that I actually had some trepidation in going and doing this flight? And it's because it was the unknown. I had never done it. And so I flew from the home airport at the time where where the flight school was at Erie, Colorado. I flew north to Torrington, Wyoming. And I don't remember, maybe it was a 2 hour and 20-minute flight. It was the first time I had ever flown into that airspace. It was the first time I'd ever flown out of my little controlled airspace or with a flight instructor next to me. I was on my own in new airspace to a new airport with new radios, with new. And I didn't know what was on the other side of the Wyoming border. I've driven up to Wyoming a lot. I know what Wyoming's about, but I'd never flown there. And I had to fly around Cheyenne's Class Charlie. I had to, or maybe a Class Delta. I can't remember what they are. And I had to fly north. So there was airspace. There was radios. There was all these things. And there was an element of fear because I was brand new. Now, I'm going to fast forward that to today. Today, I own a high-performance, very fast, very capable airplane that can fly up into the flight levels. I can go up to 28,000 feet. I've got built-in oxygen. It goes super fast. I've had this thing with a little push of the wind over 300 miles an hour. Like, this is a fast, high-performance, very capable airplane that can get me places. And I'm going to say this, all the way to the experience that I have today, flying all over the country in a very high-performance airplane that I'm comfortable with, I would be lying if I didn't say that every so often there's a flight that I embark on that I know there's a weather system out there. I know there's a this, I know there's a that, and I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to see or how it's going to show up as I launch. And I know that it's going to, and I'm choosing to launch into that unknown. And so the difference is when I first got started, I chose to launch, but I had no experience. I had knowledge, I had no experience to launch. Today, I choose to launch, and I have both knowledge and some experience to pull on. So the amount of unknown or fear that I would have to launch today is less, but there's still always the unknown. What am I going to experience or encounter as I embark on this journey. And so, you know, I can sort of liken, you know, a real estate investor taking a next step or taking an unknown step to this process of flying. And at some degree, there's a piece of me that gets it because of that. And I think we see it with people all the time.
Yeah, no doubt. And to your point, you know, there are wholesalers who have done hundreds of transactions, but they've never talked to a private lender.
Yeah, right.
And so that first private lender conversation, there's some nerves.
Yep.
Some apprehension there. So, yeah, it's a good analogy. I don't have my pilot's license, but Rob knows this, but I like airplanes. And I've thought about going through the process in your first solo.
Mm-hmm.
And I've tried to put myself in that scenario. And because up until then, you have an instructor next to you.
Right.
So if you panic and just completely let go of the wheel and say, take over, that's what the instructor will do. Well,
That's right.
you go on your solo. Now this is the real deal.
Yep.
Right? There's no instructor present. And now, you know, the weight of the flight, even though you know how to do it at that point.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that would be I know I would be nervous.
Here's so
that first flight.
Back to that exact moment.
Yeah.
I remember my first solo. I don't think any pilot ever really forgets their first solo, but I remember it. I went out to the airport. I knew we were going to do it on this day. It was a nice, cool day, sunny, blue skies, no wind, perfect day. So we go fly the pattern. We do the thing, and I got it. My flight instructor's right next to me, and I don't really think about it. I just execute. We land, pull off. He jumps out. I close his door, I lock it. I taxi down to the end of the runway, do my thing, look, clear, make my radio call, take off. As I'm running down the runway, here's the thing. It didn't strike me until I lifted off, nose wheel comes up, and then all of a sudden I lift it off and I'm in the air.
Right.
Okay. At that moment, I remember thinking, I, for the rest of my life now, will have flown a plane by myself.
Wow.
Because I have no choice. At that moment, I have no choice but to take off, be in the air, flying an airplane by myself, and land it successfully, or it's a bad day. I have no choice but to execute. And I remember the feeling of taking off and saying, I have no choice but to execute perfectly what I was taught.
Right.
Yeah.
That was
Wild.
That was a very interesting moment.
It's not like your driving test when you can take your hand off the
No.
wheel and slowly
Right.
hit the brakes.
Right.
This is a way different game.
Yeah, and
Right.
you have the experience of having to land in a field with our dad back in the day, too. So, you know.
So there was that.
There was that.
Yeah, yeah.
So
there's
first solo, did you go around the pattern a few times or did you go somewhere else?
Oh no, you're always pattern.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the very first one is you're just what?
You take off.
Touch and goes?
Yep. Full stop.
Okay.
No
So
touch
just
and go.
once around.
Once around.
Okay.
Full stop. Land. Taxi off.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Interesting.
Then taxi back down, and I did it again. I did it 3 times that first day. I did 3 laps in the pattern on my own.
And the
Wow.
instructor's watching?
Yeah, and he's on a radio,
Okay.
so he can talk.
Okay. So
to
you're
me.
chat. Okay.
Yep. So I
Okay.
can talk to him, but I didn't really need to. I was
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was so, like, the feeling was so noticeable
Yeah.
that when I took off, like, I remember my whole body saying, I just did something that forever changes.
Right. There's a
My
line
life.
in the sand.
There's a line in the sand.
Yeah.
I had never flown a plane by myself, and now I have.
Yeah, and it's very interesting, and so
Yeah.
you can liken that to so many things in
For sure.
in life in the world. But that was a distinctively large moment.
You know, before leading up to your first offer, most people get some sort of idea what's going on. They know it's a legal document.
Yep.
And then you sign it and send it. And it's not, you know,
Right,
you're not going to crash an airplane and die or fly into somebody's house, but
right.
there's some of the same sensation there. Like, holy crap, we're airborne now.
Yeah.
This is a real legal document that I just sent out, and this is live.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And you can learn about shooting firearms, and you can hold a firearm that's not loaded.
Yep.
And then you load one up and you send it down range, and that's a different experience.
Yep.
No matter how much you know about it, there's a projectile coming out of the end of that barrel at a very high rate of speed. And, there's a, similar.
Yep.
There's okay, I've learned about it. Now I'm actually going to go do it. And you cut it loose. And then it becomes, I'm going to use an analogy. Our son is, he's been taking drum lessons for a couple years, and he picked it up fairly quick. Rob, did you see the latest video? Okay. I'll show you. He can legit play now. He's 10. And here's what I was talking to him, because we recorded him over the weekend, and he's playing to a song. And I remember when he started, because he started playing a couple years ago, what he can do now, and this is what I was telling him. I said, you're playing faster than you've ever played, but in your brain it's slow.
Right.
Because he's thrown in little accent, and he's doing little things, and his mind is thinking, what's coming is a little space, and I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And I know that flying a plane is like this. When you first get behind the, into the cockpit, everything feels like it's super fast, because your brain is just like when you're learning to drive, you're on high alert.
Right.
Yeah.
And then with time, everything slows down, and that's what real estate does.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everything starts to slow down.
Yep.
And you start to, a sense of calm comes into it.
Yeah, the thing that comes to my mind with that when you say that, Mike, and sorry to interrupt you, but the one call close, getting on your first calls with a seller. Now they're interested. Ooh, they're motivated, and I'm scared out of my mind because I haven't been through this yet. Right. But then when you've done it,
a great example,
24 times, 30 times, 100 times, that conversation slows down so much, and you can loop and lead them where you need to.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, your brain is going, what if they say this? What if they say that?
Right.
What do I do here? What do I do this? Do I need to get this number? Do I need to? And then and then you're still trying to listen to a person talk to you.
Right.
And it's just chaos in your brain. And to Joe's point, 10, 12 calls in, you're just one human being talking to another human being.
Yep.
You're still following a script.
Yep.
But it starts to slow down. And so
it's like in airplanes, taking the analogy back to airplanes, because Mike, we like to talk about airplanes.
Yes, we do.
When we first start, when I was first starting, 105 knots was like, that was the trainer plane that I was flying. Like it went 105 knots. So I was used to then slowing down as I entered the pattern, and I'd be doing 95 knots coming into a pattern. And then I bought my first plane, and all of a sudden it went from 105 knots to 155 knots, and that felt so fast when I first made that jump. Right, things sped up again, and then today, I've got a plane that'll do 225 knots, and so, and the plane today at 225 knots doesn't feel fast. So the jump from trainer 105 knots to 155 knots felt like a big jump, and it felt really fast, and I felt like a little bit like I was behind the airplane and I had to catch up. And now jumping from 155 knots to 225 knots, it doesn't even feel fast. It feels fine, because I'm so comfortable. I have the knowledge, I have the experience, which has given me the wisdom to, okay, here's how you slow down the airplane. Here's how you come in at 225 knots, pull the power, pitch the nose, bleed off the speed. Like, I just know how to go from 200 knots down to 150 knots down to 100 knots in a very short period of time, because I have so much experience doing it. And the same thing, it's like real estate. I'll buy I'll buy a house like I'll buy a sandwich for lunch, right? Sometimes I think more about my sandwiches than I think about my houses, because I'm like, it's another house. Like, bought so many of these. Like, what could possibly go wrong that I haven't already experienced and have some knowledge of how to deal with? I have the wisdom of buying houses, so buying a house just is easy.
Here's what's really cool. Fighter pilots fly the most capable airplanes ever created. They start in a trainer at 105 knots.
Right.
And so if they can slowly ramp up to take that back to real estate, so can anybody else.
That's right.
You make your first offer and it fills really fast.
Yep.
And then you go through a week where you make 10 or 15 or 20 and your first offer feels really slow.
Yep.
Because now I'm moving at this speed. And so to know that, you know, the top pilots in the world, they're just human beings. They started slow at 105 knots and they work their way up to supersonic speeds.
Yep.
You can do the same thing in real estate. You start here, and every time you sort of, you know, take on the next, you know, comfort zone, talk to a private lender, you know, raise multiple $1 million, put a fund together, whatever, you know, all the different things you can do with real estate.
Yep.
It just starts to slow down, and it just becomes, you know, you just add this to your, you know, your repertoire, your, you know, your quiver, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
And, you know, Rob, you've used that analogy. I mean, in the world of sandwiches today, there are a lot of options. So I totally get the analogy. And you're like, okay, it's a house. It has 3 beds. It has 1 bath. It's 1,100 square feet. It's like the thousands of other houses I bought. What else do I need to know about it?
Right.
Yeah, you already know it's in the market because you picked the market to be there. So, okay, it's in this city. It's in this zip code. I know the city. I know the zip code. A house is, guess what? Every house is made out of drywall, lumber, materials, brick maybe. But a house is a house is a house, right?
Yep.
So it's a fun analogy because for somebody that's never bought a house or an investment property, they're like, how's that even possible? But it's no different than you've bought 1,000 sandwiches.
Yep.
You're just buying another. You're just buying another one. It's everything slows down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And part of what that's part of what we do inside of the Real Estate Mogul Academy is we help people define their buy box, right? People come into the Mogul Academy for a specific objective. They want an outcome. They want to create financial freedom through real estate investing. And so what we do when somebody comes in is we help them define and get incredibly clear on their buy box so that they don't get distracted by things that are going to take them off path, and they stay super focused on the things that are going to take them as fast as possible to the path they desire. And then we help them fill in the skill blanks along the way to actually achieve that result. And so it's the same thing that we've been talking about here. And, you know, that's the reason people get involved is they have an objective. They know exactly where they want to go. And the reason I have to decide, and it's harder to decide on a sandwich than it is to decide on the real estate, is because I've defined my buy box so clearly in real estate that if it doesn't fit my buy box, it might be an opportunity, but if it takes me off the direction, if it sucks my time and takes mental energy, and if I've got to put other effort into it, I'm super clear on what it is I'm trying to achieve and accomplish. And if the real estate, if the house, if the asset doesn't help me accomplish that, if it doesn't fit my buy box, I ignore it. And that's one of the things that we help people do, which is why people inside of the Real Estate Mogul Academy achieve results faster than on their own, because we help them define the buy box. We show them the path to create and get opportunities that meet their buy box in front of them. And then we fill in the skill gaps that it takes them to execute and actually put that result in place.
Rob, we can't early, and we're kicking off a new year here, obviously. We can't underestimate the value in knowing what your buy box is.
Yep.
In the new year, you need to know what to say yes to, and you also need to know what to say no to.
Yep.
And if you don't have a buy box, you're chasing.
Yep.
You're chasing tail, chasing whatever blows, and you're gonna get to the end of this year, and you're gonna say, "Well, crap, what happened?"
Yep.
Well, you started the year with no clarity in what am I looking to buy, what am I not looking to buy, and you just explained why it's easier for you to buy a house than a sandwich.
Yep.
Because either the house fits what I'm looking for or it doesn't. If it does, I buy it. If it doesn't, I don't buy it.
Yep.
Next, right?
Yep.
That's not how most investors, until we've explained this and helped them define a buy box. You ask the question, what kind of deals do you do? I'll look at anything.
Yep.
Great. You're set up to go another year and get to the end of the year and be disappointed in what happened,
right,
because you chased, oh, this commercial property came up. And then I was talking to one guy about this house he had for sale, but then he said, no, I'm not selling this, but I've got this 35 acres out in the middle of nowhere. And I just thought, man, if I could close that, I'd make $100,000. And then that never happened. But then I found this and this and this, and you're just blowing in whichever direction the wind wants to go. And I love this analogy. I don't think I've ever been in a sailboat. But an experienced sailor, it doesn't matter which direction the wind is blowing, they can go to any point on the perimeter of a lake.
Yep.
They can go, I think it's called tacking, where you can actually go into the wind. I don't know how to do it. Like I said, I've never been in a sailboat. But if you don't know how to sail, you end up on the opposite side of whichever way the wind's blowing.
Right.
If you do know how to sail, you can go wherever you want. That's the buy box. What do you do, which also defines what don't you do.
Yeah. Build a boring business and get your excitement in life. That's what I always tell people. If you build a boring business that just produces the results you want, you can get all of the excitement in life because the business serves your life. Most entrepreneurs, real estate investors do the opposite. They create a complicated business and they've got all this excitement, right, hustle going on in their business, and they're not enjoying their life. And I can't say that I've done that correctly my entire career as an entrepreneur, but I learned it a long time ago, and that some of the most successful investors, business owners out there have a boring business that produces results so that they can have and live a massively exciting life. So I want us to wrap with that statement. If you hear that and think that we can help you accomplish those goals and get on that right fast track to where you want to go, let us know. Get involved. Fill out an application to our Real Estate Mogul Academy, and chat with us, and we'll see if we're a good fit and if we can help you accomplish those goals. So with that, guys, this is the first show of a brand new year. We've got a whole bunch of fun stuff coming down the pipe. Stay plugged in with us. Like this on social media, subscribe, share it with your friends, and see you in the next one. Cheers. Hey friends, Rob Swanson here. Let me jump in and talk to you really quick about the Real Estate Mogul Academy. You might be sitting back listening to this and saying, how do I get in proximity with these guys? How do I have these kind of conversations, water cooler, hallway conversations every single day to help me go where I want to go in my real estate investing business? Whether you're just getting started or you're already a seasoned pro trying to elevate and go to that next step, the Real Estate Mogul Academy might be for you. What we'd like to do is offer you a free strategy session where someone from my team will jump on the phone. We'll talk about where you are, where you want to go, and how the Real Estate Mogul Academy might be the right fit for you. If you're saying to yourself, that sounds great, let's do it, go to mogulmembers.com, fill out your name and your contact information, and let's jump on the phone and let's chat. Let's see if we can help you go where you want to go this year.